Okay, this next one that we're working on is exercise 3 in chapter 6. And this one is important, and this is a hint, because when we start to work on our final project in subsequent weeks, there'll be some spots where you're going to need to have some loops running that will prompt a user for entry. And if it's not the correct entry, you'll want to replay the loop until you get the right entries. And that's basically what this program does. So if you can get the logic of this, that will help you solve one of the portions of your final programming project. So let's read this. It says, write an application that asks a user to type an even number or the sentinel value 999 to stop. When the user types an even number, display a message, good job, and then ask for another input. When the user types an odd number, display an error message and then ask for another input. When the user types a sentinel value 999, end the program. Okay, and if you think of it in terms of how applications work, having some sort of a loop running is kind of necessary, especially for a console-based application that needs to continue executing. So you have to have a way to exit the program. But at the same time, you also have to have a way to keep the program running. Now, when we work with graphical applications, and when you guys learned your VB and Intro to Programming, that wasn't even a consideration, right? You may have learned about while loops, you may have even done exercises like this, but generally speaking, your applications just run, and then they're done when you click the exit button or the red X or whatever you did. A console application doesn't work that way. You have to, in essence, put the whole program into a loop and then prompt them to exit. So it's kind of a different mindset. All right, so since our final project will be a console application, that's why this is an important part of it. I'm going to get myself ready to do the work here, so I'm going to jump over to Eclipse and I'm going to start a new class file. And it says even entry loop was the name, is that correct? Okay, so now that we have our program structure here, let's go ahead and start writing some code. We're going to need to prompt the user, right? Isn't that what it said? Mm-hmm. So we're going to need a scanner. Let's just do that, get it out of the way. Yeah, I'll still call it input. Sometimes that's not the best choice, but... And then whatever we're going to get from the user, we're going to have to store. So what kind of thing are they going to be entering? Integer. All right. So I'm going to preset an integer. I'm actually going to do it above the scanner. So whatever they're entering in, let's just call it number. We don't want to preset anything for it. All right. Now, they told us what kind of loop to write, right? Did they? What kind of loop do you think might lend itself well to this? Yeah, you could do do until. That,
well, like your sentinel value, or your value does not equal 999.
okay. And Cindy Lou, you've got the exact right logic there. And sometimes this is the part that makes people stick the most, because if you do this as a graphic, as a loop, it's actually reverse logic of what you think it is. So, and I'm just going to follow from the language that you were using. And they used 999, right? So while the number that's being entered does not equal 999, then what are we going to do? Well, let's see. It says that we have to display some messages. When they type an even number, display good job. All right. Okay. Let's one task at a time. So let's say they We got the, okay, I'm going to back up. 2 tasks at a time. We never grabbed the input, so we got to prompt him for it.
Technically, we're supposed to ask if it's an even number.
Yeah.
We are?
Yep.
Yeah, because that automatically implies integer, doesn't it? Because a decimal number can't be even. Okay. Please enter an even number or 999 to quit.
Can we, in our while statement, can we do while number is not equal to 999 and if the number using modulus is equivalent to 0? Good job.
Mhm.
Or,
That's exactly what I would do.
oh,
But I wouldn't do that in the while declaration.
you can't check that.
Yeah, I would do if statements inside the while. That's what I'm going to do. So basically what we were talking about here in class is, can you put like several conditions into the while loop? Absolutely. But really what you're doing then is you're kind of combining functions that maybe you might not want to. Okay? Because we really have to deal with 2 conditional states. So the one thing is, how do you determine if something is even? Okay. So I divide an odd number by 2, then what?
It's even.
The result is 0, it's even.
Yeah, so if you're,
So there's 2 ways you can do that. If number divided by 2 is equivalent to 0, or, right, then there you go. Or you could, if number mod 2 equals 0, same difference. Isn't that interesting? Or is it the same? If I divide 22 by 2, what's the answer? 11. Is that equal to 0? No. Does that tell me if it's even or not? No. A mod is the only thing that's going to work here. Interesting, right? Okay. So if it is an even number, what are we supposed to say?
Seems a little over enthusiastic for the task we asked them to do, you know what I mean?
Well,
Great job, it was even. Yeah, that's better.
something like that.
Yeah, definitely.
Or you can just have it say, you broke this program if you see this message.
I'm doing what the assignment tells me to do.
You broke this.
All right. So if it's not even, then what do we do?
Display an error message in front.
Copy fully. And from many other companies, Gary, because you see for out.
Yeah, and there's actually some efficiencies that we can take here too. So now if they do it right or if they do it wrong, when would we ask them to, when would we prompt them?
Is there a counter implemented?
Why would you need a counter?
I don't know. I can't think off the top of my head
Well,
how to just send it back through.
We do need the scanner import. Okay, so that's good. Okay, number's not initialized. This is really kind of a fun little exercise here. Really what we should do with that statement there is we should get the input, right? So they're going to be forced to type in a value. And I want you to pay really close attention to the structure of this, okay? Because the one thing is we are setting up a sentinel value for a loop. And that is the value that we're looking for to either make the loop run or not run. In this case, if we're looking for 999, and if it's present, we will not run the loop. Otherwise, this will keep running. Now, before we go into the loop, before we can even make that determination, we have to prompt the user to make a choice before the loop runs. Because you saw what happened if this wasn't there, right? All of a sudden the number flags because there's no value to check. The other thing you could do is you could hard code a value, but then that's not really asking, is it? Okay. So we'll get the number, we'll check to see if it's 999, because they could do it right off the bat. Then we'll check to see if it's even. If it is, we say good job. Otherwise, we say not even. And then we ask them again.
Why don't we have to assign it to the memory variable the second time you ask? How does it want to go back outside the loop?
Ah, we do have to do that. We still have to grab it. Now, this time we don't have to declare it because it's already declared. That's it, folks. That's all there is to it. Now, as I was alluding to, this is an important concept for some of the application work we're going to do later. And this logic here is really important kind of in the grand scheme of programming. This is a really common solution to a common problem. So let's run it and see if it works. Please enter an even number or 999 to quit. I'm going to type in 5. Prompts me again. 6. 0. 1.5. What did it do? I broke it. Now, one thing that we'll learn, and I'm not sure we'll have a chance during this semester to cover it, when we do Java 2, we certainly cover it, where what it's throwing here is what we call an exception. So you see that? And we will write blocks of code that will check for exceptions so that the program doesn't crash when somebody puts in something they're not supposed to. You put in what they call like a try-catch. You check for an exception. If there's no exception, you do your code. If there is an exception, then you have to handle it somehow. All right, let's run it again, and let's get it to work.
The catch carries the result, right? And the second part of the
Yes,
is where you insert, like, do this if it's screwed up.
right.
If it's not.
Sometimes it's just a message saying, oops. But what it does is it prevents the program from just stopping cold. That's not something you want. All right, so let me go ahead and try the 999 now. And we're done. Now notice, we're done, but it wasn't a very elegant done, right? So what might not be a bad idea is just to have Little message at the end. Right? An even, an odd, and a 999. Okay?